28 October 2020. This is live on JCTV Zimbabwe and also on Gambakwe Media on your Facebook and on YouTube. Broadcasting live on YouTube and also broadcasting live on Gambakwe Media. Welcome everyone that is joining us this evening. This is your boy JC, and we are here to talk about the issue of sanctions. We are here to talk about the issue of sanctions versus corruption. This is one of the most spoken subject in this past week. And I'm joined here today by none other than Mr. Bongos, who was one of the conveners of the anti-sanctions march that was done at the US Embassy this past Sunday. And the talk that was there was that the sanctions need to be removed. And we broadcasted this live on Gambakwe Media and also on JCTV Zimbabwe. So everyone that is joining us, welcome, and we hope you are having a good time. And I would like us to welcome Mr. Bongos on the channel. Mr. Bongos, welcome to this program.
Thank you very much, Jetro. Thank you very much, Mr. Rusike, for inviting me to your program. And thank you very much, and also to your viewers.
All right. We want to get into this topic. I think it's one of the most spoken topic in this past week. And a lot of people are asking, you did the march. I interviewed you before the march, both on Gambakwe Media and also on JCTV Zimbabwe. And the talk that was there was that you are going to convene people to go and march. In your view, how was the march, and what were you satisfied with what you saw on Sunday?
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Rusike. Yeah, I was very satisfied with what we saw on Sunday. In fact, the event of Sunday actually fulfills every definition of a success, because actually, if you look at it, this was a second year running of the event. And at the same time, you need to understand that President Idim Nagwa and also the SADC region, or the presidents in the SADC region, have actually done a formidable job in trying to raise awareness about the problems that Zimbabweans are facing, especially when it comes to these sanctions. So to me, this was a success. This was one of the best events that we've ever actually organized, because now at the moment, considering the fact that we are still under lockdown level 1, so what we did, I think even you have heard in my opening remarks, that the people that were there, they were strictly by invitation, and those people that were there were actually representing certain constituencies. If you look at the ANC, ANC sent its own representatives. They did not come with the ANC constituents. If you look at ZANU-PF, ZANU-PF sent its own representatives. It did not come with its own constituents. If you look at the church leaders that were present there, those church leaders came only the church leaders came there without their congregation. So on our side, that was a success, considering that the regulations of level 1 needs to be met. So we did not want to be found to be complicit of spreading COVID-19. It was one of the strict requirement of acquiring a permit to march under lockdown level 1. So everyone who was there was because of strict by invitation.
Okay, but one might say that, there are a lot of Zimbabweans that are here in South Africa, and we didn't see them coming into solidarity with you. And we saw, I think a week back, the people of EFF went and marched in Senegal. You know, the protest that was happening in Senegal when those two gentlemen who were accused of murdering a farm manager, and we saw the numbers that was there. Surely one would say, they would dispute that fact that you had few numbers, but you were trying to adhere to the rules of COVID-19. How can you explain that? How can you explain that? Because a week before, there was a march, there was a protest that happened in Senegal. We saw a sea of red barrier that were there. How come there was not as much as people as they would expect at such an event of much importance, or to the history of the country, or to the that needed to send a strong message to the United States?
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Rusike. That, in my own view, if you look at it, we aren't EFF. We are just patriotic and progressive Zimbabweans that are uniting against the illegally imposed US sanctions on Zimbabwe. So at the moment,
Yes.
if you look at it, when we applied for the permit, we were given of permit. The maximum number of people that can gather, it's about 500 at lockdown level 1. And anything that happens to that congregation, the conveners are held liable and they are held liable and accountable to that. So we did not want to have problems after the march. That our march is the one that spread it in South Africa. Our march killed other comrades or other citizens. We did not want to have such kind of a situation. EFF, they do it because they know what they are actually basing, where they are actually standing. So on our side, we did not want to find ourselves in trouble, in problems after the event.
Okay. Yeah. You said that you were going to email the petition that it list of your demands to the United States Embassy. We are in the second year running. What was the response when you sent that petition, and did you get any positive response from them? What did they say about your demands?
Okay, thank you very much. Apparently today, I make a follow-up because they did not respond on email. So today, to make a follow-up, I called the US Embassy head of security. He told me that he was apparently not at work. He can only be at work tomorrow. So that's when he can be able to give us an answer with that respect. So, and also at the same time, the other issue, I think the one that I had left on the issue of this this event, that the EFF had brought so many numbers the previous week. You need to understand that the issue at stake here is not about numbers, but the issue is about sending the message. The issue is about unity. The unity which has been preached by the president and that he has managed to do a formidable job. If you look at what Comrade Edim Mnangagwa has done within less than 2 years, is that which actually Mugabe failed to do for almost 20 years, for almost 2 decades in power. He failed to unite the SADC region. He failed to unite the African continent. So at the moment, the good thing that you need to understand about this march, which we actually had on Sunday, is the issue of unity. That now, Comrade Edim Mnangagwa has managed to unite the SADC region, and he has managed to tell them his story. He has managed to tell them the story of the Zimbabweans, the real issue which is affecting the Zimbabweans, and they've actually shown solidarity with us as Zimbabweans. So this is what is key at the moment.
Okay, but one might say, wait a minute. You might say that the predecessor of Comrade Edim Mnangagwa failed to organize marches and all of that, galas, or maybe to unite SADC, as you are putting it. But we know that the SADC Troika came several times to Zimbabwe. You know, even in the time when there was the formation of the government of national unity. And there was a time when Zimbabwe was because the SADC chair keeps on rotating, and Zimbabwe was never excluded in all these affairs of SADC. How then do you say that the predecessor of President Idi Mnangagwa failed to unite SADC, yet there are some things that we can point out that happened in his era?
Okay, I'm speaking in respect of sanctions. There's not been any, during the time of Robert Gabriel Mugabe as our president, he has not raised awareness about sanctions as the way Comrade Idi Mnangagwa has done so far, within 2 years, within less than 2 years in office. That's what I'm saying. Not necessarily to say Comrade Robert Mugabe did not try to speak with other SADC leaders about things to do with Zimbabwe here and there, but I'm talking particularly to this issue of sanctions. These sanctions, we started having matches about these sanctions because President Idi Mnangagwa realized that the moment when we unite as the Zimbabweans faced, because the goal of these sanctions is to divide people, is to divide a society. When you look at what is happening currently in Zimbabwe, people are so divided. It's because of these sanctions. And that is what actually they are intended to do. When they divide people, there will be chaos within the society. And when there's chaos within the society, there will be actually a civil war. And when there's civil war, we attract a foreign invasion. And by so doing, then the foreign powers will be able to loot our resources to do whatever that they want. Anyhow. So at the moment, you need to understand that the coming in of President Idi Mnangagwa, to me, I think it was a breath of the fresh air. It was a breath of fresh air, actually, when it comes to this issue of sanctions, because Comrade Robert Mugabe did not actually raise awareness that Comrade Idi Mnangagwa has actually done so far within the past 2 years.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, we are here on JCTV Zimbabwe with Mr. Brian Bongos, who is a philosopher, a student of political philosophy at the University of Johannesburg here in South Africa. And we are talking about sanctions. He was one of the conveners of the anti-sanctions march, which happened on Sunday here on the 25th of October in Pretoria. So we were asking some of the questions and he's responding. And if you want to be part of this conversation, please follow the link that is on the comment section on JCTV Zimbabwe on our YouTube. If you're watching on YouTube, want to be part of this conversation. If you also want to be part of this conversation, please get in touch with me, send me a WhatsApp message. I'll send you the link to be part of this conversation as well. We are continuing with this topic, and we want to make sure that we delve into other aspects. So the question that is always in the mind of the people, you spoke about the polarization that we find being orchestrated by the sanctions. But one might then say we might be polarized in ideas, which is part of a democratic nation. We can be polarized on ideas, but we must be united in a certain purpose. But why is it that there is also another plague that has plagued Zimbabwe for quite some time, which is corruption? Why are we not having these probably marches against corruption and all of that? Why are we concentrating on some sanctions which we do not have control over? Why can't we put the same effort that we are putting right now to say, let us deal with corruption decisively as a nation? Why are we not doing that? Which I believe that we can control corruption. We have power to thwart corruption as a nation. Why are we not putting our efforts towards that direction?
Okay, I think what you need to understand is that we cannot control corruption, but we can only do is to minimize corruption. We cannot thwart as it like to completely obliterate corruption, but we can only minimize the levels of corruption. So at the same time, what you need to understand is that this narrative, which has been peddled by these misleaders within our society that are busy peddling this issue of corruption as if it is a real issue. The real issue, corruption, is just a symptom of the real issue. The root cause that is actually destroying the Zimbabwean economy is the sanctions. Because you and I, you understand that you are in the diaspora, corruption, but the diaspora, because of the sanctions, when the sanctions were imposed on Zimbabwe, that's when the economy started crippling. So at the same time, you need to understand that at the moment, when people talk about this false narrative of corruption, one thing that they understand is that Zimbabwe, when it comes to the World Bank Corruption Perspective Index, where is Zimbabwe ranked in terms of corruption? Is it ranked number 1? Is it ranked number 2? Is it ranked number 3 in the world? Is it in top 5 in the world? When you look at it, also at the same time, from an African perspective, where is Zimbabwe ranked in terms of corruption perspective? Is it ranked number 1, or is it in the top 5 most corrupt nations in Africa? Why is it that the corruption in Zimbabwe is the one that is being said that is the one that is destroying the economy because it scares investors? Why is it that the corruption in nations like the ones like Angola, nations like Nigeria, nations like South Africa, the corruption of the South Africans, Nigerians, Angolans, Mozambicans do not scare investors? Only corruption in Zimbabwe, when it's being done by Zimbabweans, is the one that scares investors. I think we need to look into this corruption narrative, and you need to understand that this corruption narrative has been defined from a Western perspective, and whenever it is being applied selectively. Because if you look at it, Mr. Rusike, you need to understand that the most corrupt nation in the world is the United States of America. United States of America is the most corrupt nation today as we are talking. If you look at the United States Defense Force Army, the Defense Force Department, more than $21 trillion disappeared for the past 10 years, unaccounted for. What do you call that? Not so long ago, there was the banking crisis which nearly collapsed the entire world, where more than $37 trillion disappeared unaccounted for. And these bankers, to make matters worse, the bankers in America were rewarded with the bonuses of more than 50 million each. What do you call that? Which means corruption was actually rewarded in America. What does that mean? Why is it American economy does not crumble like what they're purporting actually to say it actually happens in Zimbabwe? Because of corruption. Why? Have you ever asked yourself all these questions?
Definitely, those are some of the points that you need to look at. But the question is that you look at the GDP of America and the GDP of Zimbabwe in terms of size. Obviously, maybe you and I can agree that if you are given looking at the size of our economy and the size of the economy of America, obviously they've got so many control in many places than we do. So if you have, let me give for example, if you have investments in FNB, Nedbank, maybe ABSA, and you also have investment in Capitec, and I only have an investment in probably one bank, who is likely, even if I lose my investment in one bank, can you compare me with somebody? Can you compare me with you who has got investment in 5 different other investments? Definitely not. So I really think that probably we are trying to we are trying to compare a bigger economy which has got investments in many places, and us who do not have as many investments in many places as America. So probably the question is, if we tackle corruption, are we not lessening the are we not lessening the expense that we are putting on our fiscus, that is causing us to have a downturn in the economy, than for us to say we have sanctions, we have sanctions. Yes, we have sanctions. It's a punitive measure, but why can't we tackle the corruption that is in our nation? Let's not fold our hands and say that it's sanctions, it's sanctions. That is my question. Let's not try to compare ourselves with America, because America, they've got many vast investments that are outside their country. So that is my standpoint.
Okay, Mr. Rusike, the reason why I'm saying this definition of the word corruption, it seems as if it has lost its meaning at the moment, because people are applying it selectively. When it comes to America, you are saying we should not talk of corruption. When it comes to Zimbabwe, we should talk of corruption because of our own small GDP compared to America. My brother, when we are talking of corruption, whether big or small, it is corruption. Whether it's done by an American, whether it's done by a Zimbabwe, it is corruption. You understand?
Yes.
So now at the moment, when we are applying the word, pardon?
Okay, I'm saying I get that. I get that. Go ahead.
Yes. So when we are applying the word corruption, we must apply it equally on both sides, whether it's in Zimbabwe, whether it's in America, whether it's in South Africa, whether it's in Africa or in Europe. Wherever there are corrupt acts, they must be said as they are. It has come a time when we need to call a spade, not a garden tool. This is the time, if somebody is involved in corrupt acts, that person must be held accountable for such corrupt acts. That's why today in Zimbabwe, in the history of Zimbabwe, there is an anti-corruption commission which was set by the president not so long ago. Since he came into power, he set an anti-corruption commission, which is actually doing its job, because we've started seeing people being tried in Zimbabwe for corruption cases, which has never happened before in the history. So to me, I think the president has done a formidable job in that respect. And we need to also also help the president, so that at this point in time, so that he can be able to fight corruption from all fronts. But now at the moment, when you look at what is happening to this word corruption, it's being applied selectively. When certain people within the society are involved in corrupt acts, some people deny that this is corruption. But when some people who belongs to a certain political party gets involved in corrupt acts, they call it, this is corruption of an extreme level. But now when you look at it, my argument is that this word is now beginning to lose its meaning, especially when it comes to the Zimbabwean context. And also at the same time, if people are now trying to differentiate our own corruption and the American corruption, what criteria are they using to differentiate that? On what basis are they using that differentiation?
There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. We are still here on JCTV Zimbabwe with Mr. Bongos, the convener of the anti-sanctions march that happened on the 25th of October in Pretoria this past Sunday. And we are dissecting and looking at the gains or what is corruption done to our society. And we are still continuing with this conversation. So in your own view, what is the way forward now? What do you want to see Zimbabweans do, and what are your plans in the future? How can we tackle this issue of sanctions? In your own view, what can the Zimbabweans do in order to bring the economy back if America does not respond or do not rescind the corruption, the sanctions that they've put on Zimbabwe? What is going to be your next move as a nation or as a person who is patriotic about Zimbabwe? What is your next move? What next now? What can the Zimbabweans also do in their own respects?
Okay, there are two things that I'm going to talk about here today. I think at first I told you, I spoke about the issue of unity. And at this point in time, allow me to say this, that since our president has managed to unite the entire SADC, the SADC leaders to rally behind the Zimbabwean problem, which is the problem of sanctions. It's now upon us as Zimbabwean citizens to now beginning to raise this awareness to other Zimbabweans so that we unite as Zimbabweans, and after that we go on a massive campaign to unite the SADC citizens against this problem of sanctions on Zimbabwe. Then we also go on a massive campaign to unite all the entire African continent. From there, we are going to become a formidable force, which America is not going to resist, especially when there is an awareness of the real problem that Zimbabweans are facing, which is the American sanctions, which are actually illegal in one way or the other.
Okay.
Yeah.
So as we continue on this subject, ladies and gentlemen that are watching us on JCTV Zimbabwe, what do you think? You spoke about the opposition parties not coming to the fore or coming to help the situation about sanctions, about marching against sanctions. But one might say that there is, you spoke about the anti-corruption commission that was set up by the president. How is it effective? Yet we have not seen anybody guaranteed a conviction, because right now we have people that have been brought to the commission, but we have not seen someone being tried or bringing back the money that they might have taken. We know the case of the former minister who was arrested, Miss Priska Mfumira. We know the story of the former Minister of Health, Mr. Obadiah Moyo, but up to now we have not had a conviction. So the language or the lingua that is on the streets is that it's just a catch and release. There is no pure, commitment to say we want to arrest corruption. What do you have to say about that?
What I can say is that that narrative is not correct, because if you can, as a journalist, I think recall that the former chief of staff in the office was arrested. He's in jail right now. He was sentenced for corrupt acts. So to me, I think people, they want to apply their own narrative when it suits them. And also at the same time, you do not, when it comes to issues that are before a court of law, you do not rush to convict a person before proving the person to be guilty beyond any reasonable doubt. So the person is given a chance to be tried. Like right now, the case of Mfumira is still before the courts. The case of Obadiah Moyo is still before the courts. But if it has been thrown out of the courts, then that's when we're going to say, no, this issue is not being dealt with. What really happened here? You understand? But at the moment, these cases that you're talking about, they are still before the courts of law in Zimbabwe. So we cannot say that there's nothing that is being done.
Okay, I get that. But what people would then say is that, yes, you are saying the case is still before the court. But the problem that people have is that if the case is still before the court, because the government is not managing to recoup their losses and get back the money that they have lost in all these, probably when we talk about the money that was lost in NASA, and you spoke about sanctions, but we also had corruption cases of money that was stolen in GMB way before the sanctions came in 2001. So the question is that we have seen in the likes of 2003, we saw the likes of Chris Kuruneri being arrested, the ENG brothers were arrested, and we have not seen the money being restored to the people or to the depositors or being brought back into the fiscus to help situations like hospitals or even the building of rebuilding the social fabric of the community. Why is it that you're saying that it's before the courts? We are not getting back the money that was lost in the process, because there's a 15 billion that we know of the diamonds that we lost in Zimbabwe. That money has not been recovered, and we hear that they saw one so and so who is accused, but up to now we haven't recovered that money. How are we going to recover the money if the corruption cases are not being finished before the courts?
Okay, my brother, I think I don't know where you want me to start. Is it the issue of 10 billion? Is it the GMB saga? But anyway, let me start to answer any, because now when you look at all these corruption cases that you were talking about, these were happening under the old republic, under President Robert Mugabe. And now this is a new dispensation. There's a new man in the office. Comrade Idi Mnangagwa is now in the office. And one thing for sure that you need to understand is that, yes, there was corruption since 1980 in Zimbabwe. That I do not disagree. We know of the Morris Nyakumbo saga. We know of the Kumbirai Kangai saga, GMB saga. We know all these. These were cases that are actually, it's a public secret that is there, out there. You understand? So now, when you look at what is actually happening now, is that I want you as a journalist to go and research how many assets have been seized by the ZEC, Zimbabwe AntiCorruption Commission, right now, that have been seized in Zimbabwe, that belongs to the people that are perceived to be corrupt. How many millions of dollars that have been seized by the ZEC at the moment? Go and research. You come back to me. I don't want to say the figures, but I want you to go and research. You come and tell me that so far ZEC has done a formidable job to try and curb this corruption issue, which has actually become rampant in our society.
Okay. I'll do that. I'll get those figures for you, and we will delve into that. But then, as we continue this conversation, you say that the Zimbabweans, maybe there's a question that I wanted to ask. The Zimbabweans are not willing to fight this thing because they feel that they are just, they are chasing a wild goose, probably in a way. Why do you feel that there is so much apathy when it comes to talking about corruption? Because some of the people will tell you that trying for us to fight the issue of sanctions, we are not the ones that are under sanctions. The ones that are under sanctions are the ZANU-PF leaders. Why do you think that there is that apathy to fight that the sanctions? Why do you think that the Zimbabweans are not willing to come to the fore to say, let us fight, or let us talk about this issue of sanctions? Let us talk to the United States to remove those sanctions against Zimbabwe. Why do you think that there is? Do you think that there is no information that is getting to them, or they are being misinformed somewhere in the process?
Right. Thank you very much. I think let me start by telling you this. Americans have done a remarkable job in trying to mislead Zimbabweans about their real problem. And they've used opposition leaders to do that. And at the moment, the reason why these people that are protecting these sanctions, they are saying it's not about sanctions, it's about corruption. It's because remember, these sanctions were asked for by the opposition leaders. So that when the people of Zimbabwe are punished, they feel, in fact, the main goal of these sanctions is to portray a picture that the Zimbabwean government is failing to provide the basic services which Zimbabweans are actually due to the ordinary citizens of Zimbabwe. So this is the picture which has been portrayed by these sanctions. your government is failing to give you your basic services. It is because of their corruption that is now failing. They are failing to provide you with basic services. But what I want to tell you, my brother, I think you have put it correctly that corruption did not start today in Zimbabwe. You had corruption during the 80s, we have corruption during the 90s, we had corruption now in the 2000s. One thing for sure that you need to understand is that why is it that the Zimbabwean economy did not collapse when we had massive corruption like GMB saga, when we had the Maurice Nyagumbo saga, when we had the Noxim saga? Why did the Zimbabwean economy did not crash like what happened after 2001 when Zidera was imposed on Zimbabwe? What corruption was there in 2001, 2002, up to 2005, or up to 2008, which actually made the Zimbabwean economy to come to its knees? Which corruption that we can talk about between 2001 and 2008 for those 7 years? Which corruption can we talk about that brought Zimbabwe to its knees? Like what we saw in 2008.
One might come to you and say that there was corruption. You know that there was the story of Barbican Bank closing, which was owned by the Minister of Finance, and you know the number of banks that closed up during that time. We know the likes of Intermarket closed. We know the likes of Royal Bank closed. We know the likes of other sagas that went. I will not be able to mention it by name. But before we go into that, I want us to play a clip from a ZANU-PF person who said that sanctions are not the cause of the problem. Let us just take a listen to him, and then I want you to tell me what you think on this.
Returns for their companies? None. Do they send employment returns to NASA? None. Evidence is there, no skyscraper in the country for 30 years. But they don't blame about my sanctions. Well, can I watch about you are imposing sanctions and you don't know how to overcome them? Then surrender leadership. If I were not sanctions,
all right. That was
unfortunately, I didn't hear anything on that video.
Okay,
I couldn't hear anything.
All right.
But the video, I know
all right. Let us play that.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Let us just play it once again for the benefit.
Returns for their companies? None. Do they send employment returns to NASA? None. Evidence is there, no skyscraper in the country for 30 years. But they don't blame about my sanctions. Well, can I watch about you are imposing sanctions and you don't know how to overcome them? Then surrender leadership. If I were
right. Have you managed to hear that?
Yes, I've heard. Right.
Yes.
So, if I'm to respond,
what is your thoughts on that?
Okay, my thoughts on that video is that in politics, there's what we call political grandstanding. When Comrade Mtswangwa was politically grandstanding there, and remember there was a narrative which was against Comrade Robert Mugabe, that he was an ailing leader who could not actually overcome the sanctions. He could not come up with a strategy. At the moment, if you look at what is now happening, Comrade Idi Mnangagwa came up with a new strategy of dealing with these sanctions, which is the issue of production, productivity, which he's actually implementing. You understand? So this is a way of overcoming sanctions, especially even if the Americans remain adamant of not removing those sanctions. So that's what I can say in response to that.
Okay, but this is the man who campaigned for the current president, who was the campaign manager for, if I want to put it that way, for our current president. And also, if there is a Sunday Mail, I could not bring the picture here, which said our president said that stop bemoaning the sanctions, and he was saying that we could work around sanctions. So then why is it that there is this now mantra or turning around of saying that no, it's sanctions, it's sanctions, it's sanctions? Are we not changing the narrative now to say, okay, it's sanctions, but back before, when he got into office, there was that hope that the sanctions were going to be removed, and there was also hope that the sanctions are not the real cause of the Zimbabwean economy collapse. What do you have to say about that? Because there was a statement that was said by Mr. Mchangwa that if we give leadership, if Robert Mugabe was surrender leadership, the next leadership was going to ensure that the sanctions are removed, because they might be in favor with the people like probably the US or the UK who have imposed the sanctions on Zimbabwe.
Yeah, I do not know what was in Comrade Mchangwa's mind. I don't know what was in his mind. But what I can tell you, if I'm respond decisively to that question, is that I will also bring, I was having access to your screen now, I was also going to bring a video of Atam Tambara begging former US President Obama, saying we must remove Zidera. And I was also going to send you letters which were written by Tendai Biti himself when he was the Minister of Finance, because he realized how difficult it was to run an economy that is a government which is actually under sanctions. They never thought that they would be in a government that would be under sanctions. But when they were brought into a government of national unity, these guys, they realized how difficult it is to run a government that is under sanctions. That's when they realized that Zidera is actually an economic bomb. That's when they realized that Zidera is actually witchcraft against humanity, because they realized that they could not access credit lines during the time when they were in the GNU, and they were actually in those key positions of the key sectors of the economy. So you need to understand the gravity of these sanctions, that no matter how much people play this fig leaf tactic of trying to hide behind corruption, misgovernance, incompetence, and all that, you need to understand that for the past 100 years, there is no country that has been brought to its knees like what Zimbabwe has been done right now by these sanctions. That there is no country which has been brought to its knees by corruption, misgovernance, incompetence, and nepotism for the past 100 years. If you have got an example, bring it to me. But what I'm sure that you need to know is that for the past 100 years, all governments were brought to their knees by American sanctions or by the UN sanctions. So at the moment, this is one thing for sure that you need to understand. And also, in addition to that, you need to understand that these sanctions, they perpetuate, or in fact, they exacerbate corruption within a society, because they impoverish. When the is poor, people become corrupt. You understand?
All right. As we wrap up this conversation, Mr. Bongos, I want us to probably bring this question to you. That you look at. I was looking at the figures here, at the numbers here. We look at the Republic of North Korea, that they managed to survive under sanctions, and they have, I mean, to a point whereby right now, I mean, you saw it the past 2 years when Donald Trump was actually trying to broker a deal with the likes of Kim Jong-un. And we saw also in the likes of Libya. Libya survived under the sanctions from the UN and even the sanctions from US. But the economy or the ordinary man in the street could afford to eat bread, and Libya could feed its people. So that is the question that people bring to the fore, to say, why are you blaming the sanctions when we have these minerals? Like, we've got 24 kinds of minerals in Zimbabwe. Why are we not looking for other trade partners that we could trade with, that can give us, better deals like the likes of Russia, the likes of China, and other trading blocs that we can engage in, so that we can grow our economy in that regard, than for us to bemoan the sanctions. I understand that there are some people who cannot do trade because of the sanctions that are imposed on Zimbabwe. I get that point, but can't we look for other trade bloc partners that are outside or that are not allies of the United States?
Okay, thank you very much. I think on that issue, I think you are bringing a very interesting question, that we have got 24 minerals in Zimbabwe. And these 24 minerals that we have in Zimbabwe, these are minerals that a government cannot sell to anyone because of sanctions. If the government has to sell them, it has to sell them through third parties. And you know what happens actually to third parties? It becomes expensive to sell them via third parties, because what you get is only chicken change. And also at the same time, you need to understand that how did Libyan economy was actually destroyed by these sanctions, because you need to understand that it was destroyed because African states or African leaders could not unite against Libya, or behind Libya. They could not fall their support behind Libya to show solidarity with Libya, like what they are doing right now with Zimbabwe and Sudan. And right now, I think this week, Sudan's sanctions are actually going to be removed in any way. I think they've been removed, if I'm not mistaken, because they were supposed to be removed this week. So you need to understand that the African leaders have become united today, which is Pan-Africanism, because of these sanctions on Zimbabwe, which have been actually, this job of which is a job which is done by Comrade Idi Mnangagwa. He has gone out there to speak to his counterparts and told them that this is the problem that we are facing in. Can you help us so that we can unite and become a formidable united force that will actually bastardize these sanctions? But at the same time, you look at the countries like North Korea. What have made North Korea to survive today is the issue of productivity, which Comrade Idi Mnangagwa has started actually running with it now. If you look at a project called Pfumvudza in Zimbabwe right now, it is a project that is actually going to outmaneuver these sanctions when it comes to food security. When you look at where it's done about when he has done about the way he has done this issue, when it comes to issue of development, when it comes to issue of infrastructure development within the country, roads that have taken more than 40 years to be reconstructed, they are being done within less than 2 years. That's why I'm saying, if you are any sane Zimbabwean, when he looks at Zimbabwe at the moment under the leadership of President Mnangagwa, he should be able to become positive on what is actually happening on the ground. The future looks brighter at the moment. There is light at the end of the tunnel, the way I see
it. This should be the last question that I want to ask as we wrap up. The last question is that this is coming from Samo Mangena, is saying, we don't have to overcome the sanction. And in the GNU, things became better. Remember how things were in 2008. If you say BT struggled, what are you saying? This is a question coming from Samo Mangena. What do you have to say? People are saying also just to supplement what Samo Mangena is saying, there are people who are saying that during the $4 or the time whereby there was Bakose and all of that, things were much better. It was easy to survive in Zimbabwe. And I remember even myself, some of my friends actually left their lucrative jobs here to go back to Zimbabwe. And it was because of how the economy was now starting, to pick up. That's when we were in that GNU. What do you have to say about that? People are saying that. So are you saying that sanctions, they only affect us when ZANU-PF is in power? Is that what you are saying, or there is something that we do not understand here?
That's what those people are saying, not me. That's what they're saying, that sanctions affect Zimbabweans when the ZANU-PF is in power, because during the GNU, life was better. But what I want to tell you is that the problems that we are facing today were born during the GNU. GNU, especially this Minister of Finance, he brought these problems that we're facing today. An ordinary citizen might not understand what I'm talking about right now, because if you look at it, my brother, yes, you might say that things were fine because we could withdraw money, US dollars everywhere we could buy. But this created the problem that we are seeing today. Because if you look at what had happened, my brother, you stay in South Africa. Tell me, where can you go and withdraw an equivalent at the ATM, an equivalent of $10,000 US dollars at an ATM? Which country? Which country? And if you look, that created the problem that we have today, because one in Africa fly to and withdraw. Nigerians go there with a lot of cards, banks, withdraw money from our ATMs. That US dollar, that's when it disappeared in Zimbabwe. Have you ever asked yourself what happened to that US dollar that you used to see during that time? It disappeared because people were flocking to Zimbabwe, withdrawing the money from Zimbabwe, taking it outside Zimbabwe. Because ATMs could dispense anything between $3,000 US and up to $10,000. I remember when I once flown to Zimbabwe, I withdrew $10,000 US because I wanted to buy something. I asked myself, what have you ever seen an ATM dispensing an equivalent of $10,000 US, which means if you convert it to rands today, it's 170,000 rands that you can withdraw in an ATM. Where have you ever seen that? Even in America, ATMs do not dispense such amount of money.
Okay.
And also,
I hear you.
The fundamentals that sustains the economy were actually broken down during that time. That's why today, Mtuli Ncube has got a huge task that he's doing right now. And to me, I think we need to give credit to the man because he knows what he's doing. At the moment, he has managed to restructure the economy without borrowing any cent, and has managed to balance the Zimbabwean economy, the balance sheet of the Zimbabwean economy, without borrowing any money from anyone. The money that you are seeing being used in infrastructure development, in all the key sectors of the economy that are actually up and running now, that are beginning to gain their momentum, it's because that money is being generated. There is no money that has been borrowed from any financial institution. So the man knows what he's doing and has managed to wipe out the debt, the government debt that was there to the IMF. Zimbabwe no longer owes IMF as we are speaking today. And has managed to also remove the government debt, which was more than $10 billion deficit, which was there, and no one knew how it happened. The money that was just being printed in Zimbabwe without any. These are some of the key fundamental issues that needs to be put in place for an economy to run. I am not expert when it comes to economics, but from what I'm seeing, where I am as a political scientist, I can tell you that we are moving in the right direction. The man knows what he's doing. And in no time, we are going to Zimbabwe will get back to normals.
Right, that is Mr. Brian Bongos. What are your last words as we wrap up, what are your final words as we look forward to this probably the removal of sanctions on Zimbabwe? What are your last words to Zimbabweans that are watching right now, and what do you have to tell them?
What I have to tell
just
them
in a minute
in closing, what I have to tell them in closing is that sanctions are illegally imposed on Zimbabwe to collectively punish the entire 17 million people. Whether you like it or not, sanctions affect you despite your political affiliation. Sanctions affect you despite of your religious convictions. Whether you like it or not, 20 years has gone by and the sanctions have destroyed a generation. Whether you like it or not, if you continue to have this kind of a mentality of saying that it is not corruption, it is not sanctions that are affecting us, we might have another generation gone by without realizing it. Like what happened now that we've got 20 years, almost 2 decades, without even knowing it, that 2 decades have passed under these sanctions. So at the same time, when it comes to this issue of corruption, what I wanted to say to the Zimbabweans or to the Zimbabwean opposition leaders is that when it comes to this issue of corruption, your job as the opposition leaders is to hold accountable those that are in government. You need to hold them accountable. And how to hold them accountable? When the issue of corruption like this, what you need to do is to open a case against those people. Whenever you've got evidence that there's corruption, open a case against those people and let the law actually take its course. And also at the same time, they should stop this issue of vilifying the government whenever it tries to do anything that is good for the Zimbabweans. They try to bastardize our government. And also at the same time, the issue of taking all the matters of Zimbabwe, the issues in Zimbabwe to do with corruption or whatever, then they take it to social media. Who are they trying to please? They are seeking a court of public opinion on social media, leaving the legal courts which are actually in Zimbabwe. Who are they trying to please? Whose agenda are they peddling? Whose interests are they advancing? That's it.
I do not know there, but I really appreciate your time, sir, for coming to this program to clarify on the issue of sanctions. I still stand by the fact that we can deal with corruption decisively as a nation and make sure that we curb our spending and we curb our expenditure on other things that are not important or that are not going to change our course as a nation. But all the same, I really want to say thank you for coming to the program. We really appreciate your time, and also we hope that the objectives that we are bringing across the Zimbabweans that are watching this program, that are going to watch the rebroadcast, they have managed to decipher what you wanted to bring us to the fore. But thank you so much. I hope to see you probably in the near future when you do other programs. We really appreciate your time, sir.
All right, thank you very much, my brother.
All right.
Thank you.
That was Mr. Brian Bongos coming here to us and telling us about the march that happened on the 25th of October at the U.S. Embassy a few days ago. But to those that are watching, do you think that Mr. Bongos had a point? Tell me what you think in the comment section. I really want to hear from you. But as we wrap up this show, I just wanted to say happy birthday to one of the Zimbabwe's greatest drama that have ever come to Zimbabwe. I just wanted us to play one of his when he was on stage as we close this show. So let's just say happy birthday to this man. right, that was Mr. Obed Gomba on stage. Just say happy birthday to him on his profile. Just wanted to say thank you. But as we close this show, this has been your boy JC reminding you that Rise Up Africa, the world is waiting for you. The question that I want to leave with you is that, do our people know what is sanctions and what is sanctions to the general public of Zimbabwe? Let us just watch this and you tell me what you think. But I'll see you again next time when we bring another show. Just watch this.
Tintani time chingonzi masanctions but tikutenda president unotoa pusha kuti vanhasi tichenda kumberi pushe kurwisa masanctions iya kuti apere hatisi kuti anopera rini but tarisiri kuti anopera nekuti tine mutungamiriri wenyika ari kufosa kuti masanctions abve zvandisatamboona chii chinombonzi masanctions zvinhu zvakafanana nekuti fuel inenge vanotwidzira pafuel. Ndongofaro zvangu nizora nhasi nekuti tintani time tichingonzi masanctions but tikutenda president unotoa pusha kuti vanhasi tichenda kumberi pushe kurwisa masanctions iya kuti apere hatisi kuti anopera rini but tarisiri kuti anopera nekuti tine mutungamiriri wenyika ari kufosa kuti masanctions abve zvandisatamboona chii chinombonzi masanctions zvinhu zvakafanana nekuti fuel inenge vanotwidzira pafuel vachitinyima mapepa emari vachitikonzeresera kuti nyika yedu ite nzara zvichonzi masanctions.
Saka machauda makutarisira kuti chii chichaitika?
Takutarisira kuti vachatitengesera fuel neprice iri nani. Fuel ikange ichitengwa neprice iri nani kana zvinhu mashopu mafertilizer mbeu zvinodzikawo.
Saka Zimbabwe chete nekuti ndo iri pamashangiseni ndo inotengeserwa fuel ichidhura.
Zimbabwe inotengeserwa fuel ichidhura nekuti yakapiwa masanctions. Vanotengesera neprice yakakwira kuma-US isita kutengesera nemabondi acho anenge akadonhedza greens. Saka zvinhu zvakunetsa kuti titendereze zvakanaka.
Munobva kupi?
Ini ndobva kuHarare South.
Zita ndiyani?
Ndonzi Munyaradzi Chitima.
All right, thanks.